and welcome to episode 15 of Diamonds and Duds.
I'm Charles Baker.
I am Ivan Baker, and today we decided to change it up a little bit. Today we're going to do a television show, Charles.
Yep, we are going to be reviewing the first 3 episodes of the CW show The 100.
Yes, I think this show just recently wrapped up.
Within the last couple of years.
Within the last couple of years wrapped up. Has a lot of sci-fi and television, like television sci-fi royalty, it felt like, was in this. So, yeah.
Would you like to know how many episodes it finished with?
Sure, absolutely.
100.
Oh.
I looked up, yeah. Apparently it just serendipity, planning, whatever the case is. The final episode is episode 100, so I thought that was kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
All right, so a description. A century after Earth was devastated by a nuclear apocalypse, 100 space station residents are sent to the planet to determine whether it is habitable. And one thing I do want to note, since this is our first time doing TV, and in case it matters to you, this is a show that had a full run. Okay, so
yeah, and that is something historically. I know I don't want to speak for you. I think I can speak for you, Charles. That's always been important to us, especially with a show like Law and Order. Well, of course, Law and Order has a run, but even if it didn't, it was contained episode to episode. Shows that were not contained episode to episode, Charles and I really would like to, unless we're watching it as it's happening. If it's a show that's already done, we want to know if it was able to at least we don't have to know what it wrapped. We just need to know, did the creators know they were wrapping it up or know it was going to get canceled?
Agreed. We don't want any Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles crap.
It's a completely different. Well, My Name is Earl.
Yeah. Totally.
What was that one with Dean Cain about the aliens? So like My Name is Earl, like that's first of all, if you like comedy shows, really that is a really good one. Jason Lee, Jamie Presley, Ethan Suplee. But what it was, the first time they ever did any kind of cliffhanger, they basically did a cliffhanger, and they unceremoniously got canceled. So it was unfortunately they had never done any kind of cliffhanger before. And then Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. Second season, they knew they were probably going to get canceled. The creator just said screw it, and they went for gold, and they made a big cliffhanger. It changed canon and all kinds of stuff. And it might not have been Dean Cain. There was some aliens had come. It was during the early days of serials. Mm-hmm. It had one season, and then it didn't get another season, kind of thing. And it was one of those ones where I didn't watch it. And there was another show like that. I don't know if we're going to watch it on here or not. What was it, Revelations or something like that, where like the power went out or something like that on that one?
I know there was like the Flash Forward one too.
Yeah,
like it might have been called Flash Forward, where everyone went out at the same time, and then they all had flash forwards. Like basically, they all had visions of their future a little bit down the road. Had one of the Fiennes brothers, I think. And also had Mary from Lord of the Rings.
Why? That sounds so familiar.
That was on network.
Because wasn't one of the guys from what he called in there, Harold and Kumar?
Yeah.
But he didn't have a flash forward.
Yes. Okay. You're exactly right. That was one of the storylines. He didn't have a flash forward. One of the storylines was basically the idea was he was dead, and so could they change basically? But anyway, get back to 100. So we're going to look at the first 3 episodes, starting with the pilot. So
starting with the pilot, and what I found interesting. Typically, I'll go through and kind of look at the creator a little bit. Mm-hmm. The creator of this literally hasn't done anything other than this.
Oh, really?
Like no other And I think the no post stuff is that he was probably so heavily involved in this that once this was done, he's kind of taking a break until his next thing, because there's no reason that this was successful enough that he's going to get another. But just he hadn't done virtually nothing. Yeah. He had like 4 things on his IMDb, and the other 3 things were like super tiny things.
Yeah, and now that CW for the most part has ended they don't really do a whole lot of scripted content. anymore. I think this does end as the CW's highest rated in terms of rating for this show. Interesting, it is also based off a book. However, book readers, these do not assume they're going to be in any way parallel, because, and I don't blame the showrunners for it. It's just this is a unique situation in that they started development of the show. It must have been some prolific writer, because before the book was out, while the book was being written. So like I think the show might have even made it to air first, because like
that is
what I understand,
unusual.
yeah, they dovetail like other than a few character names, because like the first book wasn't even released yet. Oh yeah, it's basic concept. I understand, kind of seeing some character names. It just then does. So if you ever read the books based off 100, don't criticize the show for going their own way, because they didn't.
And my thought always is too, with a lot of, whenever you're adapting something, you have to make it fit television.
Yeah.
Especially when you're adapting it to fit CW television.
Yeah,
and they were trying to merge the whole, because this came out at the time when they were doing a lot of like the Flash and Arrow,
Yeah.
and so this very much has a teen aspect.
It does.
to it, but they were trying to marry a lot of that with, as we kind of mentioned at the kickoff of this, some kind of sci-fi royalty in this. Desmond, for example, from Lost, is one of the key parts in this. What's his name? Isaiah Washington, is that his name?
No, Henry Ian. Oh no, that's it. Henry Ian Cusack.
Henry Ian Cusack.
And Isaiah Washington's.
Isaiah Washington. Kelly Hu, who was the what's the name of Wolverine's counterpart?
Yeah, I forget her.
X whatever.
X2 maybe.
X2 in that.
X-Men 2. The lady he fought.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, do you know where Clark's mother is from? Did you look this up?
I recognized her, but I didn't.
She is also sci-fi royalty.
Oh, really?
She was the original April O'Neil in the Ninja Turtles movies.
Okay, yeah.
Granted, she's probably done stuff since.
Probably, yeah.
But because it was one of those things where I was like, where do I know her from? I'm sure I know her from something else, not that, but that was the first thing that popped up.
Which, another sequitur, this is a good sequitur, I promise we will get to it right here. They're tossing around the idea of, if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, a live-action version of The Last Ronin.
That'd be cool.
Last Ronin being the famous in comic circles set of comics where all the Ninja Turtles were dead except one. Future, Fight Back. In that, April O'Neil is very much alive. She's old. The person that's being talked about to do it, he very much, it's a non-starter. So I guess the 100 actress, the actress for the original April O'Neil, has to he won't do it without. He wants the April O'Neil actress from the original movie to reprise April O'Neil, because she's the right age.
Yes,
she's the right age, and so that'd be interesting.
And so, going to this, what kind of the plot of this is that there was a nuclear war roughly 100 years ago. And the people left are the people who, at the time, it's 100 years prior, wasn't current day. It was still in the future, kind of thing. There were 12 space stations out and about. And after the nuclear war, the only people left were the people on those 12 space stations. We're now 100 years past that. The 12 space stations have been linked together. And the big thing in this is that because of the lack of resources, every crime is a capital offense.
Yeah, every crime is a capital offense. And if you basically as long as you're over 18, under 18, basically you're held and jailed. And what it kind of starts in our main character, Clark. She is 1 month shy of 18, and she and 99 other under 18 prisoners are put on a pod, and they're sent to Earth.
They're sent to Earth. Not a lot of prep.
Nope.
Not a lot of prep. That they're setting down, and you'll kind of as it's going down to Earth, as the pod's going down to Earth, you'll start to see some of the people who will eventually be the main characters. There's her
friend Wells.
Her friend Wells, who's, we mentioned Isaiah Washington. That's his son.
Yes, the chancellor, the head of the government. Basically, the government there's a chancellor, and then there's a council, which the chancellor makes a deciding vote, breaks ties. I guess you could say. Yeah, Wells is his son, and Clark and Wells, they were friends. They are very much not friends.
They were very, very, very much not friends.
And it's
anymore.
one-sided.
It's one-sided. That'll come up as we're kind of going through this as far as the reason. As they're going down a bunch, and I think the part of this is to show how immature these kids are, because these are kids. They're under 18. As they're going down, they're obviously there's no gravity, so one of them starts Finn, who will eventually be one of the other main characters in this show, starts floating around, and so a couple other people join him and float around too.
Yeah, and yeah, so and then the pod then lands, not gracefully. It crash. We're not gonna say crash. Somewhere in between a planned landing and a crash.
Yeah. A plane landing and a crash, because basically when the parachute comes out, it's like they come to an abrupt stop. And there was, I think, Finn and two others, and Finn ended up being okay. Those other two, and I think part of this, what I took this as, was that yes, this is a teen show, but people are going to die in this teen show. And so the other two kids, very much perished.
Yep. And so each one of these 100, they have no contact with the Ark, but they do have a wristband basically that monitors their vitals. The idea is that the people on the Ark, this is a one-way trip, they can't come back. They're going to monitor, and basically they're going to see because it's supposed to be 100 more years before Earth is habitable, and they want to see if frankly. They want habitable now. They
want to see if it's habitable now, because one of the things, I forget if it's this episode or one of the first 3 episodes. We're going to find out that the Ark is breaking.
Yes,
and very much, they don't have enough time, because as you can imagine with something like this, anytime let's say the air filters break, well, you need to fix those or people are going to start dying.
Yeah,
and so that was. The purpose of sending these 100 kids to the ground was that they can see if the air's breathable, but also by getting 100 people off of the Ark, they bought themselves some more time.
Yes, and even still, they're only they make it clear they only have 3 to 4 months left.
Correct.
And they were talking about they might have to do a purge. In order to get some more time to where they to get time to this
to actually fix what they need to fix.
Yeah, and so there's a couple other people we are quickly introduced to in terms of the 100, and we're going to see our actions are going to go back and forth between the Ark and the 100. I'd say it's probably a 70-30 split in most episodes, with 100 getting the biggest thing. But we meet siblings. We get Bellamy. The male, and sister Octavia, who had been in prison. Basically, she been fucked for her life. She got the raw end of the deal, didn't she, Ivan?
She did, because the other thing that is a capital offense is having multiple children.
Yep.
Because it's rather cruel, but it makes logical sense because you can't have your population expanding.
Yeah.
So basically, she's been in prison one way or another her entire life.
Yep. Yes. Originally, they hid her under floorboards, traumatized her, but then when she got caught, she went into this prison. Her brother Bellamy, he stabbed a guard or something. He stabbed a guard or something. He did something on purpose to get onto this, to be one of the 100, so that he could be sent down to.
Yes, and because he is over 18, because really we say 100 kids were sent down, 101 people are on that little bubble, because there's the 100 kids and then Bellamy.
Yeah.
And Bellamy's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because Bellamy's above 18. And yeah,
He shot the no. He did the can. He shot the can. Okay, what do you? Because what happens is the chancellor. Basically, this we had found this is kind of the chancellor has just been shot as a show. As the show opens, Bellamy has shot the chancellor. And the chancellor's in basically surgery, dire surgery, but whether or not. And Desmond from Lost is next in line.
And think of Desmond as the vice president. Kind of thing. He doesn't necessarily trust trust a lot of this stuff going to the ground, but it's as the kids go to the ground. So we have Octavia, we have Clark, we have two. Think of them kind of. I always kind of think of them kind of as science kids. There's Jasper, who has the goggles, and Monty.
Yeah.
They're kind of because the way the arc works also is whatever your parents do is what you do.
Yep.
And both of their parents were kind of science and techie, and so
Kirby.
It's important that they ended up being in here because they're one of the few kind of smart kids that can help, whether it be with getting tech or growing stuff or that kind of things. And there's one other guy. There's one other guy. Because
Talking about Bellamy's cronies?
Yeah, of Bellamy's crony.
Adam, John Murphy.
Yeah, because the way I thought about this, Charles, is because when you watch the pilot, Murphy is not a main character at all, but he's there. I think it was the case of the creators saw how much that the actor who plays John Murphy kind of stands out in everything he does.
Yeah, I enjoy Murphy.
Because I think that's why, because I've seen, I want to say maybe the first 30 or 40 episodes of this show. Yeah. As the show goes, you see him becoming a bigger and bigger part.
Yeah, and there's another incident, a big instance of that we'll talk about in a bit of the creator and powers of being seeing something in one of the characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also what we slowly learn about the beef between Wells and Clark in this episode. Clark's dad was the one that found out about the arc being broken. He wanted the council wanted to keep it quiet. He wanted to tell the world, and making it clear is that Wells basically is the one and because once if they found out about that, basically again, it's considered a crime going against the council, and
everything is a capital offense. Is that basically he got blown out the airlock, and Clark made no bones about it that she was going to tell everybody too, which is why that's the reason Clark was thrown in prison. And that's also, it sounds like the rest of the people that are in quote unquote prison are not put in isolation, but it sounds like she was also put in isolation and not allowed to speak with anybody.
She had been like a year. She had been in isolation, at least almost. So they're on the wrong mountain.
Yeah, basically they tried to send them to a mountain that 100 years ago was meant to be a bunker, for nuclear weapons and that kind of thing. It would have had supplies for them, but they accidentally dropped them on the wrong goddamn mountain.
Yeah, interesting. And I noticed someone at the background of the arc, and you said you've watched 30. I've just watched these three. You've watched 30 or 4, so maybe this person will become bigger later on. I recognize in the background he doesn't have a line on the arc.
Lieutenant Gaeta?
Yeah. Gaeta.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Gaeta from Battlestar Galactica. He is, if you ever watch Battlestar Galactica but aren't good at names, he loses a leg, other things happen.
He absolutely ends up, because this is way post Battlestar.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that's why I thought like, I don't see him again in the 3 episodes, but I'm like, Battlestar had already had his full run, and he was a big character on Battlestar. If you've never seen it, I'm like, okay, so he's probably there's 100 episodes, but he's probably something's happening. But basically, instantly, there's no a lot of these people, they don't the kids down here, they don't want to follow orders. They don't want to do. They don't want to do what they're supposed to do right away. Very much Lord of the Flies already.
It very much has a Lord of the Flies, but also I don't think the adults thought this through. I think
Yeah.
they had to do what they had to do what they did, but I think they just sort of assumed that the kids would be, doing what was right.
Yeah.
But also keep in mind, a giant chunk of even if they picked the quote unquote best 100 kids, these kids were locked up by the adults for X time period. So they don't think very highly of them anyway.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that five of them, Finn, Clark, Monty, Jasper, and Octavia, they set out for Mount Weather.
Yep.
Because they don't have any food. And so they sent out for Mount Weather, but at the same time, Bellamy starts kind of gathering power. Is because around this time in the episode is where you're seeing that he is the one more than likely who shot that shot the Chancellor, and he doesn't want the Ark coming down because obviously he's going to get in big ass trouble.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And we start getting everybody to start popping off the wristbands. Meanwhile, on the Ark, again, Chancellor's in dire straits. There's a bit of power play between Desmond and Clark's mom, I think Abby. And basically, Abby violates the law by giving more resource blood, I believe, to the Chancellor than she's supposed to. And so Desmond makes a move. He's going to put her out the airlock, which is the method of execution they use on them.
Again, as crazy as every single offense is a capital offense. And what we find out is that Abby doesn't trust Desmond at all.
Yeah.
And she was doing it solely to make sure that the Chancellor lived and that Desmond couldn't take power.
Yeah. And so in the end, she's right about to be spaced, but the Chancellor comes out, he vetoes it. Hey, no. So she's fine now. Again, I've seen 3 as compared to Ivan's 30 to 40. And then I could end up being way off because this is Desmond's biggest episode out of the 3. I don't think he's even in the 3rd one. I don't see Desmond as a villain. And he has it's Kane. His name's Kane.
Yeah, we're such huge Lost fans. It's hard for us not to call him.
Yeah, he's Kane. But I don't see him as a villain. I see him as just like at least right now, he's like a pragmatist. He's like, I don't like, because I said there's a traitor on the Ark. I don't think he's a traitor. Maybe I ended up being wrong, but I think he's simply he has a different. He wants to keep the Ark going, and he has a very different viewpoint of it.
Yeah, that's kind of what my thought on him too is that and so kind of going back to the 5 that were going to Mount Weather, they find some water they kind of play around in. Octavia gets almost eaten by a big ass monster.
Yep.
But the episode ends with Jasper's the first one that crosses, and Jasper gets hit by a big ass spear right in the chest.
Right in the chest. Now here's where after the episode, after the second episode, because we're going to continue right now, and we're going to keep going about episode 2. So, and I'll say at the beginning of episode 2, like right away, we find out Jasper's alone. That's like the first thing we hear him yelling.
It's not meant to be it's not meant to be a long-term is he alive kind of.
Now, if you just watch as I did the episode 1 in a vacuum without seeing it, that is a 100% kill shot. Now, again, I'm not blaming the show for this at all. This is not a situation where the show made a mistake. Okay, it is a 100%. It's a big spear directly to the heart. I mentioned earlier, but again, I don't blame the show because it was meant to be a kill shot. Jasper was designed to be killed in the first episode like that. However, everybody, while they were filming, everybody loved the actor who played Jasper. And so they're like, you know what? They're basically like, fuck. He's lit. Basically, they're like, we like this guy. let's keep him going. He lived.
And
So.
and what Charles is mentioning is if you watch the episode 2, it's almost comical because when we say it, it's about like the spear is about maybe 6 to 7 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
And it's like right through the middle of his chest.
Yeah, and it goes full in the whole.
But what I will
the actor, so
what I will say is they didn't F around and they just made sure it was abundantly clear 5 seconds in episode 2 that he was alive.
Yeah.
They didn't bring him back and like have some weird. They just said, "Hey, he's alive," and you hear him scream.
Yeah. And so one other thing I do want to make about episode 1 is at one point we do see a deer, and they're like, "Oh, wow," except they're not ready yet, and it turns and it's mutated. It's kind of has a split head. Especially considering for the CW, I thought that was a very good effect.
Yes.
I was like, I wrote down. Clearly, we're not going to see those very often. But that's the kind of thing you pull out for a pilot episode.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very well done effect.
And they had a few minor things like that because they had I forget when the butterflies are because they had a few butterflies. They've had a few butterflies. They had a few minor effects because they want to make sure they kind of. But I think they want to put the money of the show into the actors they had and make sure they can keep the actors they had.
So then going into episode 2 titled Earth Skills. Earth Skills? Yeah, Earth Skills. Basically, after the spear, the group is like, fuck it, we're out of here. And they hear Jasper yell, oh crap, and we go back and we find already 23 of the wristbands are off.
Yeah, and that is throwing off those on the Ark because they think those kids are dying.
Yeah.
But like what's confusing them is it reads back like the vitals and they're not seeing anything vital wise beforehand. It's just they're fine 1 second and dead the next. Which doesn't make sense with what Abby says, and I forget who her assistant is. It doesn't make sense with what radiation would be. Yeah. Because radiation you'd see something there. Yeah,
and so before we get back to him. Okay, there's definitely people. At this point we know there's other people. Basically, there's people that survived this nuclear fallout. We know that there is a group down here. They quickly start calling them grounders. I think even in this episode, but there are people alive. Clark reveals to everyone when she's like, "Wait, you're taking them all off, guys? The Ark is dying," and so like,
and that's partly on her because. She was one of the only people that knew that, and before she left to try and go to Mount, because basically when that thing happened with with Jasper, the other 4 went back.
Yeah,
but like she never told the other 100 people that were there that the Ark's dying.
Yeah,
so they don't know the Ark's dying. They just think the Ark are assholes and sent them down to Earth.
Yeah, and so.
Well, I guess Wells.
Yeah, but also Bellamy. By the way, Wells is in a very precarious position because these are all every single one of these people probably is, except for obviously Wells and maybe Clark, but these are all kids that are gonna get excited as shit when they know that the Chancellor's been shot. Every single one of them wants the Chancellor dead.
Because all of these people were put here by the Chancellor.
Yes. And a lot of them, their parents got spaced by the Chancellor. So Wells is the most hated person there because he's the Chancellor's son.
And so... And I forget what, we mentioned Murphy when we were talking through the characters. He has a fight with Wells during the beginning of this episode. And Murphy's kind of slowly going psychotic.
Yeah.
Is kind of the thing.
He's one of Bellamy's 2 main cronies. Adam's the other one.
Adam's
just he's not crazy.
No, Adam's. Adam's not. There was a third one in the pilot episode, but I think they just, as much as they like Jasper, I think they just sort of didn't like the other actor, and we just never see that guy ever again.
Yeah. And so Bellamy, but when Clark tells everybody about the thing, Bellamy's able to totally spin it, and Bellamy, I wrote down like Bellamy's a dangerous threat. And again, I haven't seen the whole series, but this very, very much, at least in the beginning, feels to me this isn't just Clark's story. This is very much as a dichotomy. This is a Clark and Bellamy story. Like those two are the main star are going to be the main stars. I think going through the course of the series.
Yeah, and as what they decide they need to do is they need to go save Jasper. They want to go look for Jasper. And kind of to everyone's surprise, obviously to no one's surprise, Wells goes.
Yeah.
Wells goes with Clark. But the person that everybody's, I think surprised is that Bellamy goes.
Yeah, because Clark, and I wrote down, Clark knows how to manipulate Bellamy.
Yes.
She manipulates Bellamy into, I do really, into going. Because, like, if they see you not go, they're going to, she does a good job of manipulating.
And then Bellamy has a way, he can get Murphy to do anything. At this point, he can get Murphy to do anything he wants him to.
Because Murphy goes with Bellamy.
Yeah.
Adam's going to stay with because Bellamy won't let Octavia, because Octavia got a little hurt,
Octavia got a little hurt, and I know Monty wanted to go, but bluntly Clark said, Monty, you're too important.
Yeah, because she wants him to start trying to figure out a way to use the wristbands to contact.
Because his parents handled a lot of like the growing and tech and stuff, so he's one of the few people that knows how to do all this stuff. Yeah. So,
and one thing we didn't mention that does happen, I think it's the end of episode 1 tag, is that out of these 23 wristbands that are off, Wells is one of them. His was forced off. So like
exactly, and I think that was meant to be for television. Like the way they kind of film it is they kind of make it look like Bellamy's gonna kill him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like it was mainly just Bellamy forced it off of Wells.
Yeah, because Bellamy tells like once they start going, Murphy's why Bellamy's like, I'm getting that track one way or another. I'm getting the wristband off Clark. Because with Wells is already off, if Clark's got, because mom's a big wig of the government, then it's over. They'll never come down. And it's shortly after that Finn comes in. I don't think, at least we don't get any impression they heard her.
Yeah.
Originally he's like, no, I'm not going, but then he just kind of joined because he probably realized Bellamy's a threat. He likes Clark.
Yeah, and as they kind of go and they separate, and during the course of this episode, it was kind of towards about the middle or so of the episode, they find Jasper.
Using some good tracking by Finn.
Doing some good tracking by Finn, but also what they come to find, part of this is, I think they were trying to use, the Grounders were trying to use Finn as like a trap, Jasper as a trap, but like they healed him.
Yeah.
So, not fully, but healed him enough so that he wouldn't die.
Yeah, and so exactly, and the story on the arc this episode is very much the Counts. They need to kill more people. I think 200, and every day more would need. And they're trying. Both sides are trying. Desmond's trying to get votes to do it. Mommy Abby, I think, trying to get votes. Otherwise, it ends up being a deadlock.
And with basically what the council is there's 6 people on the council, and then the 7th person who doesn't only votes if there's a tie is the chancellor. And so what ended up happening with this was that it was 3 to 3, and what the chancellor decides to do is to abstain.
Yeah.
Because basically he wants to give Abby and her assistant time to see with 100% certainty, one way or the other, is the ground okay? And is the ground okay?
Yeah,
and
which another person we're introduced to, we don't get, as we'll talk about episode 3's arc stuff flashback. So we don't see her. I assume obviously she's going to become bigger. Basically, she's like a repair woman. And also, you get the impression the teenagers, most of these teenagers, when they turn 18, they were not scheduled to be executed.
Basically, what the plot? It sounds like what their system is that when you turn 18, there's like a board,
and
if you're crazy and you basically flip them off and say fuck you, well then yeah, they're gonna space your ass.
Yeah.
But if you legitimately or don't you turn the life around or whatever, they're just gonna let you go and give you a shot.
Well, she's like, she was working on, repairing stuff outside. Basically, she puts two and two together right away because she has, they don't say who it is. It's them. She has somebody that's, she's in a relationship with, that was locked up under 18. And so she puts two together and she actually makes away and she finds out that, and she right away, she's like, yeah, no, they're taking them off. Because there's debate, like, they're dying, doesn't feel like radiation. And so she's going to help Abby build an escape pod.
Yeah, because basically Abby has 10 days to figure out if, to figure out everything. And Raven is going to help Abby, rebuild a escape pod to see with certainty what's going on.
Yeah, so my prediction, just because, is that Raven and Abby are obviously going to make it, and she's going to make it just in time to develop a nice little love triangle, or or at least hinting of one between Raven, Clark, and but that's about it. But yeah, so that's happening. They are able to get Jasper. Bellamy's trying to sow a little discord.
Yeah, exactly. Basically Bellamy sees instantly, and I don't know why anybody else can't, but Bellamy sees instantly that Wells is in love with Clark. And he's trying to sow seeds with Wells partly because Bellamy's not evil. He's trying to get people on his side, and he, for the most part, has rational reasons why he's doing everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends with, this episode ends with, they find Jasper, they save him, but as they're saving him, like a panther or something like that comes to attack him. Bellamy goes to grab his gun to kill it. His gun's gone. Well, Wells had stolen it because, he doesn't trust Bellamy.
Yep.
He doesn't trust Bellamy to have the gun. Well, Wells kills the panther, and they bring the panther back, and they do now have some food.
Yep. And also, side little story was Adam and Octavia have some kind of history, rekindle a little bit, and it pisses Bellamy off.
Oh, yeah.
Adam gets hung, not killed, hung. But basically, he gets strung up as like a punishment to stay up in stay hanging from a tree or something.
And you find out early in the next episode that he's okay.
Yeah.
And Bellamy's clear because as the next episode starts, Murphy's like, well, are we going to kill Adam? Kind of thing. And Bellamy's like, no, he's done his time.
Yeah.
And it's good. And so, and I think what part of that is to sow the seed of Murphy being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Episode 3, called Earth Kills. So first off, this is the last one we watched so far. The arc stuff, this one's all different. It's nothing. There's nothing present day. It's all flashbacks. Essentially, we're gonna see how Clark's dad found out when Clark tells Wells, because Clark overhears it. Clark tells Wells, we're gonna see Dad, and we're gonna see Dad being spayed, and this is gonna be, which is gonna be very important because it's gonna go into that Wells and Clark dynamic, and we can see if long term these two are able to make up and be friends throughout the 100 episodes.
And for those of you who kind of have watched Lost as a TV show, think of this episode like a Lost episode.
Yeah.
Is you have the kids on the ground and you have flashbacks. Is basically what this episode is structured kind of like a Lost episode, and kind of you see what 1 year ago you see them all that stuff happening. You see they're getting clean water. You see at the beginning of the episode, 2 of the kids are lost. They don't know where, and this is a problem they probably need to sort out, is like the immediate area around the damn, drop ship to to mark stuff so people can find their way back. Because there's two people that are completely lost, can't find their way back, and they get caught in some sort of acid cloud.
Like toxic fog, and it seems to kill them. That's the beginning of the episode tag. Oh, by the way, the end of the second episode is you see in the trees one of the ground leaders watching.
Yeah,
can't see their face. They got some kind of cool skull-ish mask or bone mask on, which is kind of cool. So we see that fog, and we go back to the camp. Yeah, Jasper is wailing and screaming in pain. Bellamy wants to kill him.
Bellamy wants. I think Bellamy wants to kill him just because he's frustrated. There are other. Murphy wants to literally kill him.
Yeah, I think Bellamy wants to kill him. Like Murphy wants to kill him because he's crazy.
Murphy wants to kill him because he's crazy. Bellamy kind of wants to put him out of his misery.
Yes, that's more Bellamy. Put him out of his misery. Also, like Bellamy is thinking about what it's doing to the camp.
Again, think of it like a Lord of the Flies kind of thing, and what morale-wise and stuff. Because basically, Jasper is groaning and moaning and screaming the whole time. And what we see here is that they see that whatever the Grounders gave him was helping, but not 100%. That they need more of it.
Yep.
And Wells was able to determine what that was.
Yes. And obviously Clark wants to save him. Also, we start to see Finn's emerging as the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And kind of what I wrote down is it kind of feels right now, I thought at this point, that we have, without a character change, that we have one. In terms of, I was really thinking at this point, Finn's emerging as a voice of reason. And it kind of felt that Finn... You don't need Finn and Wells. It's kind of what I was thinking at this point. It kind of really is feeling to me right now, as I was watching this right now, that like there's not really space for both of them long term. And kind of so we start to see we talked about the first flashback. And we get Wells, Clark, and Finn are off to find health stuff.
Yeah, and Wells knew what it was. Finn knew where it was. And so the Clark, Wells, and Finn are off to get that seaweed. Yep. What they do is they leave Jasper. They leave Jasper in basically in Octavia's hands. And Monty's up there too. But Octavia, they know that bluntly Bellamy won't fuck with Octavia.
Yeah. And also, one thing I do want to say, and I haven't actually said this on the podcast before. Sometimes I can kind of see things coming. As early back as episode 1, I knew Wells. I knew it was. What I mean by bullshit is we're gonna learn throughout the course of this episode, Wells did not betray.
Yeah, because basically what they keep telling you is that Wells told his dad that Clark's dad was going to do this, and that's why he was spaced. What we come to find in this episode, that's not the case.
Nope.
It was Clark's mom told that her husband was going to do that, knowing her husband was going to get spaced. But Wells, for his friend, is that he'd rather have his friend hate him than hate her mom.
Yeah, I agree. And so they're not the only group that's heading out, though. Bellamy and a couple of his buddies, they're heading out to do some hunting. And
because this isn't like a show where it's like day to day. Like at this point, Jasper has probably been moaning for 2 or 3 days. And the reason we mentioned is that panther we mentioned a little bit. That panther's pretty much gone.
Yeah, and so especially when you factor in
when you factor in like 90-some people,
We got introduced also this episode. We get introduced to a young girl. She's probably maybe 10, 12, maybe even younger.
Charlotte.
Yep.
She looks very familiar.
Didn't.
Okay, and maybe I remember it.
She has a lot of really bad nightmares. We get her with, I think, maybe a scene with either Clark or Wells, but then
Clark?
Clark. and then we go out, and Bellamy, she follows Bellamy, and you see a bit of a softer side with Bellamy. Bellamy lets her come along on the hunt.
Yeah, but basically, Bellamy knows that she needs something, and so he gives her a knife, and she kind of helps out on the hunt a little bit.
I felt this was a good episode for Bellamy, because before this, up until this episode, maybe he still turns into it. Before this episode, the first couple, they set him up to be at least season 1's mustache twirling villain. Okay, this episode really makes it seem he's an antagonist right now, but he's very much not just a one-sided villain.
Yeah.
That there is more to him. There's more. There's going to be, I think, so that they give him some depth. I think this episode and how he deals with the girl, because that fog's going to go after both. And the king.
Exactly, and so as they're kind of doing this, they find the seaweed and shit, and they're on their way back, and that's when that gas we talked about before is now hitting all three of these groups.
Yeah.
And so think of it this way: the main camp, everybody just sort of gets into the drop pod.
Yep.
Everybody gets in their drop pod. The seaweed, the three that went after the seaweed, over the course of them going to the seaweed, they found a car.
Yeah.
And so they basically get into the car
and they find whiskey.
They find whiskey and they kind of have a teen drinking moment.
Yeah. And then in the cave, which is where Bellamy and one of his cronies, I think basically one of his cronies, I think cronies had been with him, but Bellamy and the girl were in the cave. Because they get separated from the other, and basically she talks about a nightmare, and Bellamy gives some basically advice. It's like it's a dream. I can't. Like face the fear in your dream. I think his with the idea being like in your dream, take control of your dreams and conquer the fear.
He's like what his standpoint is that you address your fears head on, or they're going to control you, which is good advice regardless, especially when a situation like this where everything's bad.
Yeah, and so basically it ends up passing. They end up Team Save Jasper ends up getting the seaweed and getting back. Bellamy and the girl get back, and they're able to save Jasper.
One of the things that happens is that doesn't someone try and go up there to kill Jasper?
Oh yeah, in the pod. That's kind of what's happening.
Oh, because they leave Murphy back, and Murphy wants to go up to because Jasper's on the second level. And so Murphy decides he wants to just it's time to just end this.
Yeah,
and he learns not to fuck with Octavia.
Yeah, because Adam went with them on the hunt. Adam gets separated. Adam dies. Adam dies basically the fog. And so that gets Octavia, obviously, at the end. She feels sad or whatnot.
Yeah, and basically, one of the things you learn from this episode, too, is that how tough Clark is. Yeah. Because Bellamy, because this is one of his friends, Bellamy can't put Adam out of his misery.
Yeah.
Clark could.
Yeah. And I thought that was a very, very good.
Yes.
Very, very good moment. Very, very good moment.
And as much as it sucks for Adam, it was also a bonding moment for the two, for Clark and Bellamy.
Yeah. And so Jasper lives. He's going to be okay. And then the end of the episode is a nice little conversation, isn't it, between Charlotte and Wells at night?
Well, before this, Wells does tell Clark.
Yes.
Wells does tell Clark that because I think Clark is starting to sense something. There's something else at play here because Clark's not an idiot.
Yeah.
Basically, Wells tells Clark that hey, it was your mother.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, he comes clean.
But then we to finish off this episode, there's a conversation between Charlotte and Wells, where basically both of Charlotte's parents were killed by Wells's dad.
Yep.
And that is unbeknownst to Bellamy, that is the nightmare she's having.
Yep.
And so what Charlotte was there when Clark put Adam out of his misery kind of by putting a knife in his neck kind of thing. And what Charlotte interpreted what Bellamy said, and this isn't what Bellamy meant, but what Charlotte interpreted what Bellamy meant was that, okay, you need to address...
Fight your fear.
Fight your fears. Well, her fear is Wells.
Because she sees the son of the person that kills her parents every day.
And she kills Wells.
She kills Wells. And that's how, because she's like, that's who I see, I gotta face it. And she had stolen, she had taken the knife from Bella.
Yeah.
It was Bellamy's knife. Maybe I think he gave it to her.
He gave it to her
for the hunt. For the
hunting, but yeah.
For the hunting. And so, I'll be honest, that's how it ends. With the kid, we don't see the fallout. If you want to see the fallout, you have to continue watching. I expected Wells to die not at some point soon in the first season. I did not expect him to be a long-term character because I think Finn is a more interesting character. I think as of right now, I think in terms of acting, I think both of them are young actors and both of them have room to grow. Yeah. But I think Finn is a lot more of an interesting character, and they kind of cover the same ground. So I expected Wells to go a lot later than this, maybe like at the end of the season or something like that. But yeah, that was a big shock, and that was a great way to end episode.
And that was a great way to end episode 3, but also similar to what they did with the 2 kids when they died on the way in. I think what this also meant to serve is that nobody in this show is safe.
Yes.
Yes, these are kids. Yes, we will kill kids.
Yeah.
I think is what the purpose is of that. A lot of that was.
Yeah. So overall, after 3 episodes, do you give this a diamond or a dud? And at what level?
I'll fully admit I'm completely biased. I absolutely love this show because we go diamond and then diamond to 3, right?
So it's like diamond, basically diamond to 5.
I don't know why I was thinking
dud to 5.
For me, I don't want to put anything at diamond 5 yet. For me, this is diamond 4.5. Yeah, I absolutely love this show.
And I got a diamond 4. I thought it was a great start, great hook to the show. And really, I didn't mention any names. The only couple things I wrote down during the course of it were addressed later on, and so it then became pointless. Like early on, I felt that there wasn't enough focus. Like I'm talking early on like food and water, but then they addressed it, so I didn't have any issue. You don't need to beat a dead horse. They showed a water source, fine. They showed
that they're getting food somehow. Yes. They're not ignoring it.
So that became a moot point. I don't really have any issue. I thought the effects were good, especially the arc itself. Great.
And I think what was perfect because this first season they were given 13 episodes.
Yeah.
So this first season very much feels like an HBO or kind of because they weren't sure if they were going to get a season 2. So it was like, do what you want to do. Season 1, you're getting that 13 episodes. We're not sure if we're giving you more. Yeah. And that's where this show is constantly in a state of, are we getting to next season?
Yeah. And if you're like, hey, where can I watch? This show is on Netflix.
Yeah.
You can catch the whole thing on Netflix. Again, there's 7 total seasons, 100 episodes. Looks like most of the seasons fluctuate between 13 and 16 episodes.
Yeah. What was good with the CW is they gave the creator the number of episodes he needed. This wasn't the Lost thing where it's like the Lost creators are like, hey, we only want to do like 14. And they're like, no, you're doing 25.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. Just start a good show. So, what are we tackling next week? Next
week, we are tackling another TV show.
Yeah, another sci-fi show. This is the one. This is another one. We're not talking the way back machine, but back about 14, 15 years ago at this point, Terra Nova. So tune in next time.
Tune in next time for Terra Nova.
All right.
Have a good one. Bye.